My name is Chloe Kline, and I work with amazing youth and families at Community MusicWorks in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm a white, cisgender woman and a classically trained violist. I'm leading with this because a lot of what this presentation is about is how much work needs to be done, especially for white folks trained as classical musicians, to counter the unwelcoming and exclusive practices of classical music. The amazing animations you'll see in this presentation are created by Yahaira Morales, a CMW violinist and a student at Classical High School in Providence. This video is about looking closely at classical music spaces, whether these are classrooms or performance halls or lesson rooms, and the many ways, sometimes overt, sometimes subtle, in which they exclude and harm young people, especially young people of color, and also at ways in which we can begin to interrupt and dismantle some of these norms. I don't pretend to be an expert in this, except in the ways that we are each experts in our own experiences. My teachers in this realm are the students I work with and the colleagues that I work with who have experienced and continue to experience the harm that these spaces inflict. I'm grateful to them for sharing their experiences with me. They are the experts of their experiences and in what feels supportive or not in the spaces we jointly inhabit. But none of us are able to solve this problem on our own. So the challenge is really how to show up fully and commit to the work, bringing our own expertise and whatever power and privilege we hold to work for change. That's my hope today. To start with, here's a little more background on CMW. CMW is a classical music education and performance organization based in the culturally rich neighborhoods of the south side of Providence. Neighborhoods that are almost always ignored, forgotten, and cheated when it comes to things like plowing, or planting trees, or playgrounds, or city funding for arts programs, but which are full of resilient, resourceful, and imaginative individuals, and a rich ecosystem of community-based organizations. CMW has been based here for 25 years. The big idea is that music should be available and accessible to everyone, that when you're walking home from school, you might see some people in a storefront playing music, people from your neighborhood, who you know, who do this thing. And if you're interested, you can stop in and try the thing too. Simple, right? Yes and no. I think by now we're all aware these days of the enormous race and gender and class inequities that classical music has been built on. Classical music has traditionally survived upon the support of the wealthy, the ruling class, and/or governments. And the classical music system has systematically excluded, neglected, and disenfranchised people of color, women, and any musical traditions that don't follow Western European art music rules. So if a classical music space is to feel welcoming, if we want people to feel comfortable walking in the door and trying this thing, it's simply not enough to open the doors and offer free instruments. We can't ignore the fact that less than 2% of the players in top symphonies are Black, and less than 3% are Latino. We can't ignore the fact that classical music audiences are predominantly white, wealthy, and of a certain age. We can't ignore the fact that there are rules, so many rules in classical music spaces. Are these rules posted? Nope. But you'll get some serious side-eye if you break them. And it's painful. Has anyone here been to a classical performance in a big performance hall with a group of students? You probably know what I'm talking about. And your students definitely know what I'm talking about. And here's the crucial part. Even if you don't agree with any of these rules, chances are the musical spaces that you inhabit are likely upholding and enforcing these, unless you're specifically working to dismantle them. And they're incredibly harmful. Students and colleagues of color have expressed to me that when they come into a classical music space, they notice that they're the only person who looks like them, that everybody else looks like they know the rules, that the space is designed to show you who's the best at this and who's in charge, that the images and sounds around them perpetuate white supremacy, that they're expected to behave with deference to those around them, that the consequences for not following these rules are worse for them than for their white peers. And that makes them feel like they don't belong, like they have to prove every second that they do belong, like they missed a memo somewhere, like classical music belongs to someone else, even if they're being invited to try it, and like their success in this arena is unlikely. So, as educators, as performers, as musicians, as humans, what can we do? Here's a list. It's not exhaustive, and there's work for all of us to do. First, look within. Do the internal work to figure out what you're perpetuating. Spend time thinking about yourself. What is your cultural background? What power and privilege do you hold? How are you trained in classical music? What parts of the classical music culture worked or work for you? What didn't? Find support for yourself in this work, affinity spaces, trainings, meditation. Find and share resources with others. Second, change what you can about the environment. Who else is in the space? If all the teachers and musicians on stage are white, what learning conversations need to happen among the teaching staff? What work needs to happen so that this can change over time? If this is a teaching space, what is up on the walls? Whose images are you displaying? And who's missing? How are the seats arranged in the space? What music are you playing? Whose musical voices are missing? And how can you authentically, and not in a token way, bring them into the conversation? Third, come up with shared norms. Work with those in the space to create a set of norms that are clear and visible. Figure out within the group how to hold everyone, including yourself, accountable to these norms. Make it explicit. Talk about the ways that the field and society exclude people, and about the ways we can interrupt this. Fourth, create and support opportunities for youth to share their voice. Make room for composition and improvisation from day one. Talk openly about what it feels like to play someone else's music all the time, and to bring your own voice to the experience. Create and support a culture of conversation. Last, but not least, listen. When people do share their opinions, make sure that you're paying attention. Make meaningful changes, or at least start the dialogue. So that's my spiel for today. I'm incredibly grateful to the young people at CMW and elsewhere, as well as my colleagues who've helped me understand this context more deeply and who continue to show me my blind spots and to share their extraordinary creative voices with me and with the world. And please remember, these rules are present and felt. Ignoring them will only make those who are harmed by them feel unseen. We're all part of this system. We all have work to do.